if we try to control ultimate success for ourselves, like we're just asking for it. If we understand that success is about reputation, it's about legacy building, it's about more than what you do today. It's about ultimately what you accomplish and how you allow others to enable others to even look at their own success in their own lives and say, wow.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further.
Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, Yona Weiss, and I am so excited today to be sitting with Dale Dupree. Guys, we're sitting with the leader of the sales rebellion and the copier warrior. This guy is a branding and sales genius. If you haven't come across him before, you are in for a treat today. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, bro. It's really exciting for me to be here with you today, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, we've been, been following your story for quite a while, and just immediately upon coming across some of your content on LinkedIn many years ago, I was just blown away by a couple of things. And I'll tell you this, I don't know if I ever told you this, but just the sincerity. I think there was the first time I ever saw was a video of you in your car talking about how some other person, some person you're trying to sell some copiers to, just couldn't get it, just didn't have the integrity, and you couldn't believe it. You just couldn't fathom the fact that someone could be that shallow. And to me, that just stood out to me. It jumped out from my screen, and I was like, wow, this is someone that I need to connect to and follow. And I have not been let down. Let's just say that.
I appreciate that, man. That's a good story because it's not easy to put your heart on your sleeve and be authentic to a group of individuals on a platform, millions of people on it, right? That could potentially see your thoughts, hear your ideas, and disagree, and give you a bunch of garbage rebuttals, cause you to think less of yourself. Actually, in this process, it's very difficult, especially in the beginning stages for me. It was very difficult for me to. So I really appreciate that. With that said, I really appreciate you telling me that. I've always struggled with it. I think I always will, no matter what. But I always ask myself in the midst of hitting send on a post, as I'm feeling a little reluctance, if I am that day, I always just remind myself, someone needs to hear this. Doesn't matter the 999 people that don't like it, the one person that hears it and that changes something for them is the person.
That's exactly right. And I feel the same exact way, sometimes, and I always have those kind of thoughts, should I post this? Should I not? But, let's talk about, just for our listeners who don't know who you are, I introduce you as the leader of the sales rebellion and the copier warrior. I'll let you give a little context to those titles because they stand out on their own. But to me, what it means before you do that is just branding. It's standing out and making sure that everyone who sees that or sees you or hears that knows exactly what that is and knows exactly who you are. And so to me, it's genius marketing and branding.
My friend, yes. Your description is really, and as I recognized when I got to sales back in 2007, selling copy machines, that the copy machine was pretty boring, pretty stale, pretty bland, pretty generic. It does a thing, makes a copy, makes a print. Sometimes they scan, sometimes they fax, right? Especially at that point in time. Now all they do is scan and print. Who makes a copy anymore, right? The real thing. But I digress. I also was in a crowded field of people that were selling the same boring, bland, generic thing, all wearing a suit and a tie, a blue shirt, white shirt, right? There wasn't much differentiation, whether it was aesthetics, whether it was the power of someone's personality, right? Most of the salespeople that I met in the industry were overbearing, to be quite frank with you. And so it was how do you differentiate? They're all overbearing. They're all constantly nagging you and trying to get you to buy this thing because their boss is screaming at them that they haven't hit quota and they're going to fire them. But also, it's a very industry. So you kind of ask yourself, you would say, why would someone put up with a culture like that? Well, because people are getting money and the power that comes with that, right? And so when you can sell a copy machine and make $2,000 on a commission check, right, it pushes you to sell more and to stay in the game and to deal with your crummy boss and the bad culture and eventually become an alcoholic and addicted to some form of drug or sex or whatever it is, and live with it because the money's great. Who cares anything else? And I know I went on a tangent there, but that's really where my thought process headed when I started to create the authentic brand that is the Copier Warrior, I said, I need to spell out to people that I don't want these things. Like, sure, the money, I'm in it for the money too. I'm in sales. Anybody that's in sales is in it for the money. Anybody that works is in it for the money, because whether you're just paying your bills or you're trying to create ultimate success for yourself and freedom, you're in it for the money to some capacity, no matter what. But that to be a byproduct of my success. I wanted people to feel that I could truly help them, truly serve them, and truly give something back to them. And that's really where the Copier Warrior brand was born. And honestly, like that's where the rebellion was born. Because, whether I knew it or not, back in 2009, when I started to develop the sales brand Copier Warrior, I was rebelling against the typical. I was told, that's stupid. This won't work. No, it's dumb. Why are you even going to try? I was like given those types of doubts in the process, and said, no, this is what people need and deserve. So I'm going to lean into this and I'm going to risk and see.
So what was that? I mean, Copier Warrior. I mean, you have like a shirt. I mean, you're wearing it today, but it's like a guy with a sword, like just chopping a copier, like a samurai. It's just incredible because, I mean, the concept is, yes, you're standing out. And I think a lot of the things that you've done and that now you teach with the Sales Rebellion, which is a sales training, right, boot camp and training program, coaching program, is to stand out and to be different and to not go down the beaten path. Because yes, sales, as you said, people are in it. Salespeople tend to, if they do well, tend to get great commissions, get great checks, great income. But if you don't want to go down that beaten path, and not everyone does, there are ways to do it by really changing your paradigm, changing the way that you feel about sales and how you relate to the customer or to the prospect.
Right. So I believe that when you do something like develop a brand for yourself, you also are like creating a mission and a vision. I think that you have to do that physically, have to create a mission and a vision for yourself as a sales rep, because sure, the company might have one too, but you need to lean into your own mission and vision for yourself and what it is that you desire. So also like created a motto, and the motto of the Copier Warrior was that I long to learn and I ache to serve. And the thought process behind that was I want to be curious about people and their businesses. And I want the opportunity to be able to give back to them in ways that most salespeople don't ever give back. And so I started at those foundations, and that the brand and I wasn't the guy that wore a suit. So at my actual design, you'll notice that I'm not wearing a suit, but I'm wearing a vest. Right. So I've got this professionalness to me, quote unquote, because I believe that the word professional is a cop out, right? It's a way for us to disconnect from real life and not be a human, so because instead we say, well, it's business, right? It's not personal, right? It's a cop out to me. It's an excuse. So I didn't want to be the guy wearing a suit, but I wanted people to understand that and that I am, and through that posture that I'm authentic, right? And so I don't like a suit and a tie, but I'll wear a vest because I think that looks dope. Right. And so that's who I am. Right. And so I gave the visual. Yeah. And sword was a huge piece of the puzzle. But sword was the thing that slayed poor service and conquered bad deals. Right. So that's what literally was tied to the sword. Right. And so when you think of the Copier Warrior, you think of the guy that's going to come in, and that when you're 9 days overdue from receiving a toner for your down machine, that who you're going to call. Right. You're going to call this dude that's going to show up and he's going to conquer that issue for you. And if you're doing business with him, you're never going to have those issues. And if you do, this is the guy that told you that if they ever happen, he would fix it for you. And so, he's going to wield that sword for good and not just to win a deal, right? But he's going to wield it to defend you.
Yeah. Because a lot of salespeople are out there just literally, they could care less about the prospect. Like once the deal is done and they got the check, like that's it. They're out of the picture. They don't care. And I think when you show up with compassion, exactly, they're gone. And you can't find them. And showing up with compassion from the beginning and showing people here, I'm here to serve. I really am. It's a whole different relationship. And not everyone necessarily wants that relationship with a copier salesman, right? But when you show them, I think everyone, no matter who you are, recognizes that that's authentic and recognizes that this is someone that I would like to do business with because they stand out and they're different and they actually care.
For sure. You know what they want? They want somebody that they can hold accountable to the problems in their business, right? So I think you're right from that perspective. I think we all want that from the perspective of if I buy something from you, that's what I want, right? So I think your point is very valid, because there were people that as they saw my brand and they learned more about me, they were I don't need new friends, right? I need someone to fix my problems. And because I had this double-edged sword, no pun intended, of personalizing a brand around the concept of fixed. especially from a corporate perspective, from a professional perspective, right? When they thought, you know what, every once in a while we have these problems with the copy machine and they're major. They are only every once in a while, but they cause like hysteria inside of the office. And so if this guy is really saying that we can hold him accountable to the problems and he won't just disappear after the sale, it might be worth a risk for us, right? And that's what I was really tempting people to do, was take a risk with me just as much as I was risking my own reputation by stepping outside of the business box and building something that was a little more whimsical and fun, right? Because look, like business is conducted based on emotion, whether people want to admit that or not, just like in most things in life, is that if I don't feel good about something, I don't want it, right? And so I think that's a huge piece of the puzzle that a lot of people have forgotten or taking it right in their own, and in the way that they think themselves, right? Like that, I'm calling you out, people out there that are thinking lesser, right? Like, let's go deeper, right? Let's picture a better future for ourselves, right? And because we attach emotion to that, it's not a bad thing. It means that we are bought in, tied down, and we are willing to do what it takes to create substance. And
so when you left the copier industry in terms of selling copy machines, which you were doing very successfully for a while, and started this, the sales rebellion, which is, I don't know how I would even characterize it, but it's a platform. It's a coaching program. It is basically giving over your sets of principles of how to be good, how to be that copier warrior in your own right, in your own industry. So what was obviously you talked a little bit about the impetus for starting that, like where it actually began, the grassroots, but when did you decide this is something I want to stop, really selling copy machines per se and teaching others how to be the best, salespeople they can be?
Yeah, I think from the moment that I began the journey of the copier warrior and that I stopped selling copiers. So back in 2009, 2010 timeframe, I just stopped selling copiers altogether. I just started selling, based on emotional context, based on pattern interrupts, based on causing curiosity, based on giving experiences, based on fixing problems. And I stopped selling copiers altogether. So naturally, like somewhere in like 2014, 2013, I started to give advice to people in my circles as well too, because of that, where they would say, man, how are you? I don't get it. What is happening, right? Like, what are you doing? And so I'd humble myself in those moments, and I think there's a temptation in those moments to just be like, yeah, I am a rock star, right? But I always lean back into the fact that I'm in the image and that I'm no different than any other person, that everybody can be exactly who I have become if they will themselves to it. And if they accept that destiny that's been placed before them that maybe they can't see right now. So for me, it was more of this idea of allowing people to become what they've always desired, and that they can't articulate very well sometimes. Because when I told people I want to be the best copier salesman in the world, right? People were like, what is that's dumb, right? But like when we take pride in what it is that we do and believe, even if it's just quote unquote selling a copy machine, everything changes. So again, for me, it was like, if I want to be the best copier salesman in the world, I have to instill hope. I have to do these things. I can't sell a copier ever, because that's not going to create the best copier salesman. It's going to create another piece of the status quo pie. Right. And I didn't want that. So again, to answer your question, like from the beginning, right, from the very beginning of the brand, I stopped selling copiers and I started just serving. And because of that, it bled into me like getting on the phone with one of my financial advisor friends and him saying like, how do you make a cold call to this guy? And me picking the phone up and going, hey, my name's, and literally telling him like the name of the person, my buddy, right? And pitching quote unquote this person on why they should hear me out and meet with me and setting appointments, and people sitting in front of me just like, what? They're like, how did you do that? You don't know anything about my product. You don't know anything about my service. And I every time I would tell people the same thing. That's where you've gone wrong, right? This is about creating connection with people, building a reputation, and doing something that provides intrinsic and extrinsic value in one sitting, right? It's not about the pieces of the puzzle that your product fixes. It's about, or that your product does. It's what your product fixes, right? More so than anything else. And how do you create that human connection through it and through communication of what you'd like to accomplish?
Just to kind of go back to what you're talking about there, is showing people what their potential is. But And, I love the humility also. You can be the best at what you can be, but realizing that, yes, it doesn't all come from me, right? I'm created in God's image, and it comes from a higher source. And the truth of the matter is, I'm nowhere near what my actual potential is. I mean, that's true humility, like as great as you can be. But we all have setbacks also. We're all human, and there's not a single person in the world that doesn't have struggles. And so we always look to others who are, as we perceive, more successful, or someone that I'd like to be like, and kind of awe in wonder of how do you do that? And the truth of the matter is, it's just focus. It's figuring out what works and doubling down on it. And what you've done is incredible, because you have kind of a little bit of unique approach, I would say, to some of the things. I mean, obviously, like I said, I've been following your content on LinkedIn for years, and have come across, countless stories of different weird, literally like out of the box approaches to how to just get someone's attention, right? Because that's the name of the game. Like, once you have someone's attention and pique their curiosity, yes, they can say no 100 times, or they can say, I'm never going to meet you ever. But if you can figure out a way to get in there, then you've already won half the battle.
Yeah, I developed an acronym, or a process, I should say, through the acronym that I created, which was REASON, REASON. And the A in reason stands for attention. And it's one of the most important parts of the process. So like right now, typically, like to get someone's attention, a salesperson will call and introduce themselves, their company, and will ask if they can have 30 seconds to tell them why they want to meet with them and show them more about what they can do. Well, that doesn't really gain attention as much as it just causes a moment of, either weakness, in a moment, I should say, of weakness for a person. They say yes, or in a moment of not really having clarity around what it is that you want to do with them, they just hear salesperson and they want to get off the phone.
Right.
Right. And so when I say weakness, though, I also mean like it's not just about somebody being quote unquote in a weak moment, but also like feeling that I've hung up on the last two salespeople. Karma's going to bite me. I should probably be nice to this one. Like, that's sympathy. Who wants sympathy in their life, right? Like, I want people to believe in what it is that I'm doing. I want people to buy in and be influenced by what it is that I'm doing. I'm not a fan of the sympathy sale. And that's what most sellers are trying to get out of somebody in the moment. I got a soft spot for you salespeople. Used to be one of you at some point. Give me a break. Get me away from your soft spot and believe, buy in, be influenced, right? So we developed this concept and inside of Reason, and I did, back in the day when I still sold is when I created this. And like you said, there's just crazy stuff, right? My favorite is the Rebel Letter campaign, which people can find at crumpledletter.com and just check it out if they want, or try it themselves. But really what the letter campaign was for me was just this door opener, right? I mean, I'd make a call and every salesperson listening is out there saying, hi, I'm Dale Dupree with the Sales Rebellion. I was calling and saying, hey, what's up? It's Dale, guy that sent you that weird crumpled letter. Did you get it? And if they did, they were like, what? Right? And if they did, they were like, oh, that was you? That was clever. Right? They give me a little slice of something, Right. Not everybody was just like suddenly, opening the door to selling them something, right? That's not how it works, right? It's not the intention behind it either. The intention behind it is just to provide an experience that gains the right and proper amount of attention that you then nuance throughout the process and you never deviate from. You don't suddenly become salesy. You don't suddenly become pushy. You don't suddenly become agendistic. You stay in this moment that you've created throughout the entire life cycle of what you're building from a relationship perspective with these people. You think long-term instead of just the next 30 seconds, the call you have to have after this, the discovery in a few weeks. You think about the years to come, the dynamics of what it is this person can truly do for you from a relationship standpoint. If I like a salesperson, I'll tell my friends about it, especially if they say, hey, I need this. Who do I go to? Mm-hmm. Right. And I think in sales, we take that for granted. We think, nobody really cares. Right? People do care. At the end of the day, they do. If you influence correctly, they're bought into what it is that you're doing, your ability, as it aligns with what it is that they desire out of their business, out of their life, and they'll buy into you. People want to see you succeed. Trust me. I mean, that's inherent in most people. Yeah. They want to see you succeed. So tapping into that whole concept of reason for me was really what created the outcomes that I have today.
And what are you doing right now with the Sales Rebellion? I mean, give us a little, for those of us who aren't familiar with it yet, and what's kind of the vision? Obviously, you talked about the vision, but really, what's the day-to-day? What's the practical what's behind that?
Sure. The vision was like, I didn't call it Dale Dupree sales training because I never wanted it to be Dale Dupree sales training. I want it to be a community of people. I want to be able to eventually not even be at the top, right? And I actually have already started that process. I stepped down as CEO 4 months ago, and I asked my business partner, one of the guys that helped me found the company, to step up and to be that piece that we need so badly from a leadership standpoint. Because I suck anyway as a CEO. I'm not good at it, right? I'm a way better salesperson, and I recognize that, and admitting weaknesses and understanding that, sure, like I can work on being a CEO. That's not my calling. That's not what I've been called to do. I've been called to breathe life into people and their sales walk. And because what happens when I do that, when I make a better salesperson, I'm truly creating a better human being. That's what I really do. And that's what the rebellion does. The rebellion doesn't focus on sales tactics as much as the rebellion focuses on very human behavioral concepts. We focus on very human communication. We focus on very earth encounters with individuals instead of this glamorous, grandiose, system and process built by salespeople for salespeople, right? Like literally nothing built by salespeople has ever been for a buyer, period. That I've learned at least, right? And I know there's some good stuff out there. I'm not saying that everything sucks, right? I'm not being half glass empty kind of guy, but at the same time, there is a fine line between a salesperson and a servant leader. And that people need to understand that sales is founded on helping, serving, creating, right? It's sales is a life skill either from that perspective, right? So the rebellion, we look at it as coaching and consulting. That's how we roll. We help anybody from a VP of sales to, build out comp plans, create sales strategies, even helping with marketing concepts and ideas. Like I mentioned the Rebel Letter campaign earlier. We got Rebel boxes, Rebel books, Rebel resumes. all kinds of different pattern interrupt style concepts to give people experiences, to have them scanning QR codes on the top of a cake that you sent them, to watch a video, to be just tied into the culture of what it is that you are building and want and desire to bring you into their own ecosystem. All the way down to the identity of who am I, for an individual sales rep, right? Sitting with it, and we don't believe it to be training, even though we have training modules, learning modules. We still believe it's coaching. It's about, banding together with somebody, like locking arms with them, being a part of their walk and journey and building success in that thing with them instead of, from behind or from the front. And that's really what coaching means to me. And the individual contributor program that we have. So one-on-ones with people that are in sales that, maybe they don't have a lot of money, but they need development. Like we built a company based on that concept. So we're now expanding, into more coaches and having, the availability again of scaling the rebellion instead of it just being free sales training, right? It's a movement, what we do, right? Yeah. Sure. Like we do believe that a lot of our strategies and the things that we bring to the table are very different than others. And because of that, it brings a different form of success, right? True intrinsic and extrinsic success from what our perspective is, because we rebel against the typical and average results and we create legends, right? But at the same time too, we understand that if your habits suck, right? Whether you're running the team or you're part of the team, right? If your habits suck, right? There will be gaps. If your time management sucks, there will be gaps. And then not just in your professional life, like those habits, like they could be stopping and smoking a cigarette every hour, right? That's a health habit just as bad as it is a time management habit, right? There are things that we want to help people to see and understand about being better as a human so that they can be present as a father, be present as a mother, be present as a friend, be present as an uncle, be present as a grandma. Right. We want people to understand that life is sales, and that's what the sales rebellion stands for.
And that's so it's extremely profound, but at the same time, everything I always say is also like everyone is in sales. Everyone. There's nobody's out of, no matter what you're doing, there's somewhere related. So if you can become better at it, you become a better person. It's just plain and simple. And I love that perspective because it really just helps people become better at what life is all about. And if it helps bring in more, revenue and more sale, whatever it is that they can they can create a better lifestyle also through that, then all the better. That's a testament to just being true to what they were meant to do in this world. So that's awesome. I love that. What would be one if you could pick? Right? And I know it's extremely difficult, but if you could pick one experience that you've had since the founding of this sales, like this new company that has just been the most, I'm trying to formulate this question. I had it in my head, but really like experience that has actually just kind of changed you as a person?
I feel like there's a lot of good answers. I feel like I've personally developed, even in the last 6 months, I've personally developed myself in a way that helps me to further conquer things like my depression. I feel like some of my experiences have been like, on top of that, from a personal perspective, helping me to define the legacy I want to leave as a father and as a husband as well too. Even though I believe in those things and I work toward them every day, like we can't stop. We can't say, "Oh, I'm good at this now." We have to say, "Well, I am good at this, but I need to be better. I need to be the best." And even when we are the best, we need to say, "Now I need to be a legend." And then when we are a legend, we have to say, "Now I need to leave the legacy." And so it's a nonstop, never-ending concept, right? So I feel like there's a lot of those moments inside of this, right? From realizations of selfishness or like, being overbearing as a leader, things that like I didn't even know I could be, or like I didn't recognize that I was to some extent. But I think the thing that's changed me the most, though, as I talk about all of that, that the constant, because this isn't just happened once; it happens all the time. It just happened this week, where I had a young man come up to me. I'm going to try to talk without getting overly emotional too, although I don't care but for time's sake and the listener's sake, because I don't want to get a bunch of people crying in their car on the way to work. Listen, that's right. But when someone comes up to you and looks you in the eye and says, "Thank you," and beyond the words, that as you look deep into those eyes, you see exactly what they mean. That as you watch them tear up, just by saying those two simple words, that that something has flicked a light switch in their life because of something you said and did, because you chose to be vulnerable. You chose to be something everybody called stupid at one point in your own industry. And you chose to take those risks. The reward of that goes beyond self, even. You can see that young man or that young woman who expressed in those moments that gratitude. You can almost play out exactly what it will affect back at home, back in their own community. And you can see, for me, the legend of my father, Curtis Dupree, playing out through my own actions and infecting, which is a great word, even though it might be used negatively in these days, but infecting other people with hope and a positive outlook toward what it is that they're building and who they will become, not what they want to become, but who they will ultimately become. And because we can't see that, it's so powerful, right? Because we can only conceptualize it, it's so powerful, because in that one moment of clarity, it becomes very real. It's not an idea anymore. And that to me is probably, without a doubt, the single most impactful thing that happens to me pretty consistently at this point, that just keeps my engine roaring at the loudest pitch you've ever heard. And is why I will not be silent on these subjects and why I keep pushing.
Awesome. I'm so glad I asked that question. Best answer. That was like, I'm going to pull out that clip, because that's probably like the highlight of this episode for sure. Dale, I want to transition to what we call the final four now. These are 4 questions I ask all my guests. And the first question for you is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
I've been thinking about this one because you kind of queued me up on this one. And I laughed the first time you asked too, right? Because so part of my story that people don't know is that when I first started selling copiers, not everybody, I should say, I had 3 jobs. I was at a blues bar. I sold copiers, like I just mentioned. And then I also worked weddings. And so I did all the setup, all the teardown, and I also ran the bar, the open bar, right? Just to make sure that people weren't like getting too drunk, basically, was the thought. But I totally failed on that multiple times, and let people drink way too much. But I digress. I had 3 jobs, but my head went there. But then I was like, I actually loved all those. I loved those. I think the one I didn't like the most was I worked this up when I was touring in my band. When I would come home, I would work for extra cash, just like side hustling, right? I'm always been somebody that's just like, I want to make money, right? And really, like, I want to make it at the time. I want to make it because I want money, right? But really what I didn't realize is that I wanted to make it because I wanted to be who I am today. I wanted to be able to connect with myself deeper and get past the surface level things. Like, because when I finally had the money, I was able to tell myself, this doesn't fix anything. right?
Right.
I was finally able to get to that place, right? And I think one of the jobs that really got me to that place of understanding like what true happiness is, that it goes beyond money, was that I was a landscaper with a group of guys that really I only liked one of them. The other ones were just poor influences. They were either real staunch in their beliefs about something specific, which they kind of like overbearingly spoke to you about, right? Or they were like, they had habits that were just dumb, or they were super arrogant, right? And so I liked the work. Honestly, I liked the work, but I would like call out sick in the morning because I was like, I don't want to be around these people. They don't make me happy at all. They're bad influences on me. And I bet to this day, they're probably still struggling with their own identities and giant turds, to be quite honest with you, because there's also like no accountability in their lives that I noticed, at least. And so I didn't just look at the job when you asked me that question. I looked at like, what was the full experience? And that's my answer. I know it's probably profound, but that's who I am.
There you go. That's that. Yeah, that it says a lot also. Second question, what's a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
There's a book written by Donald Miller called Blue Like Jazz, and it's not what anybody thinks it is. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody that's listening that goes, oh, maybe I'll check that out. It changed my wife's life completely, and it caused me to think a lot differently because of it.
Oh, okay. We'll put that in the show notes and we'll just leave it at that. We'll check it out. Add it to the reading list. And the third question, what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
I've always I'm a musician and I've played a lot of instruments, but I've always envied people that can like play a saxophone or that whole family of instruments. Really, anybody that can just like use their fingers to press a button and the tone of their mouth to make a beautiful sound. That's always been my envy. Like you have to have there's a breathing structure, like the way your mouth is formed. Like you could pick up a saxophone and people could be like, and your teacher could go, you're going to have to put that down because you're not like elite enough. You aren't created genetically well enough to be able to play this. So that is a literal skill or talent that I wish that I could, or that I would have learned at some point.
Okay. Well, there you go. A fourth and final question. What does success mean to you?
Success goes beyond what you think that it is. Success is the story that people will tell about you when you're gone, not because you manipulated it or created it, but because you were so authentic that people could look at you and write the story alongside you exactly as you were narrating it to begin with, instead of using perception, whether they're false or accurate even, right? Perception in general is still perception, right? But really, like, success to me is somebody that did it. Somebody else, right? Not just ourselves, right? We can't, and to me, like, if we try to control ultimate success for ourselves, like, we're just asking for it. We're asking for it. We're asking, right? If we understand that success is about reputation, it's about legacy building, it's about more than what you do today. It's about ultimately what you accomplish and how you allow others to enable others to even look at their own success and their own life. Wow. It's not that I want what Dale has. It's that I believe that what Dale has is something that is truly genuine and pure. And that's what I desire to be as well too. So that to me is ultimate success.
Love it. Love the answer. Absolutely. Unbelievable. Dale, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you if they choose to?
Yeah, so we got salesrebellion.com. The salesrebellion.com is probably we're about to launch a new website at the end of this month, starting next month. I'm really excited about it. So you can learn a lot more about what we do over there and the community that we're building. Also, like right now, if you head to it up in the top right corner, join the community, and you can actually come into a Slack group that's open invite free for anybody that wants to come in and share dialogue with other rebels, learn how to be better at sales, and just generally take their life walk to another completely legendary level. But if you want daily content, linkedin.com/IAM/copy your warrior to find my feed. You can follow me, or I actually have like 18,000 friend slots left. Even though I've got a ton of followers, I've kept the direct friend slot very slim because I want to be able to pick the right people that end up coming directly into my network. But also you can check us out on any social platform, Facebook, at Sales Rebellion on everything, Instagram, TikTok. Come chill on my TikTok. You'll probably laugh your butt off.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to checking all those out. And it's been a pleasure, Dale. I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time and spending with us and enlightening us today, really, as you have. So thank you.
My honor, bro.
To our listeners, thank you for joining once again, all the way to the end. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask.
Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.